Well, hey, welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show. And we have a very special segment called Here, Let Me Do This For You. And I'm really excited to introduce you to my friend and my client, LYNN Lawrence. She's a member of our inner circle. LYNN, thank you so much for joining me today.
I am so excited about this. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, we've had the pleasure of hanging out for a few years. LYNN, you have a coaching business, right? And you've been helping women to take it away. What is our current focus these days?
I help women who are hyper responsible, the woman who looks at herself and goes, I take care of the birthday dates, get the presents, I get all the things together, I work hard, and who feels like she's got everything on her back but doesn't realize that she's ended up kind of driving in everybody else's lanes and is taking over responsibilities that aren't hers. And I help her see that and decide consciously, do I want this responsibility or not?
Love that. And thanks for clarifying that. In our time working together, you you've always been very focused on helping women. I know you've done some, faith-based coaching, you've done some what now after divorce kind of coaching. I'm so curious, this over-functioning woman, what is it about serving her that you're really excited about?
It started because I was getting coaching from you and from some other people, and I realized that systems are great, automation's great, getting all the lists together, and like how you would always say, make sure you do your time maps and everything. And that's me. And I realized I couldn't, I was stuck at a certain point because I never realized not only was I doing my own stuff, which I'm an attorney, so I have a legal business, I do the coaching business, and I was taking on responsibilities from my husband, from my stepdaughters, from all these other people, and that's just not sustainable. And when I finally started looking at it, which is funny because AI is the one who said, "You're not in your lane." And I was like, I'm not in my lane, and it took a stupid AI to tell me that. And so I was like, there's a lot of people out there like me, and I think especially among the coaching group, because we are taught here, do A, B, and C, but you don't realize that you've like grabbed other things in your orbit that you don't need to be holding on to.
So good. That's so good. And it is really nice to hear that you've identified that for yourself as well. And you're right. I think that there's a lot of women, there's a lot of like helper profession type folks who need to hear this message for sure. So LYNN, when you're going about building this business and you're growing and you're expanding it, what is the thing that you would like to work on today? And maybe I can do something for you and help you out.
Like to run a Facebook ad, and I'm sure there's a fancy word for this, okay? But have the Facebook ad, if somebody says, "Yes, I want to do this," drop to a landing page where it says, "Great, here's what you've just asked for," and give the option of like sending out an email with a kind of webinar. It's a video sales letter in a link to that so that they can then go watch the video and then decide to purchase the upsell, which is my main class.
Okay. Awesome. So this class, what's the class called and how much is it?
It's called the automatic catch, and it goes over how we pick up things. And then the cost is for 6 weeks and two personal 30-minute calls plus four other bonuses. It's $9.97.
997. Okay, cool. And have you sold this offer offline yet?
Not yet. This is brand new
Amazing. Okay, great. That's fantastic.
and scary.
So you want to be able what is making running Facebook ad traffic so attractive to you right now?
It's the only thing I've ever done in the past.
Okay. Okay, cool.
That's like, and I'm not stuck on Facebook. It's just the one that, I've known you for years, and that's how we started was with the smaller Facebook ads. And I did get contacts through that. And of course, now I've changed my focus, so those contacts don't matter. But so I'm up for anything basically, but that's just the only one that I'm aware of.
I love it. I love it. Well, super helpful. What is the biggest outcome that they're going to get when they do the automatic catch? Like, if you could describe their before and after, what is their after going to be like?
Their before is feeling overwhelmed, feeling exhausted, feeling like they can't add one more thing to do because nothing has really fixed up their life or made anything less onerous. And their after is learning there's 6 different ways that we start adding things to our duties without ever consciously realizing it. So this teaches you be on the lookout for these 6 things and be aware of them, because when you're aware, you can say, yeah, I still want to do that, or no, I don't need to do that. And not only does it free up yourself as a person, but it enables the people around you to grow up and mature because you're not doing everything for them. Because I know, like at work, I have a really hard time delegating because I can get it done just, like you can do this much faster than I can. And it's hard, I think, as a woman to not just get it done and move on. And so this will teach you how to say, no, it's okay to let that person stumble a little bit and grow because that's how you grew. So that's
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And so this person that you're wanting to attract sounds like she is taking care of other people. Sounds like she probably has a goal that she's not making the progress on that she'd really like to. Do you think like she is maybe reading up like books on this, or has she ever experienced coaching before?
I think so. I think that this is the type of person who knows what she's doing, who has gotten coaching for time management and worked on if she has a business or is running a household, because they're both pretty similar. She has read the books and read the articles and watched the reels on here, do this one more step and things will get easier. And it just is one more thing to do as opposed to becoming aware of what the problem is.
Love it. Okay. In terms of being successful with this new venture, I'm curious, like, how many customers are you hoping to attract per month? Like, have you worked out those goals?
I'd like to do a minimum of 4 a month, but it's kind of that's my minimum goal.
Okay. All right. So you got that minimum. Have you worked out what you're willing to spend in order to get four?
I don't have a precise number, but I know that it's gonna cost money. It's one of those, I don't know how much the ads are and everything. One of the reasons why when it actually goes live, I'd like it to be a $7 item, not just a free giveaway, because I think that is such a low price point for it's a decision reset tool with a guide. I think that $7 is, your nice cheap price point. People look at it, and that'll just help pay for, bit of the advertising.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So let's talk. Let's talk about this. So when we're building a business, I think there's one thing I really want to make sure I put here. The whole game of business is basically this. You have my interests, so this is what you're interested in. So you had this breakthrough of like, hey, wait a second, I've got a lot of people, pulling on my calendar, pulling on my wallet, pulling on my dreams, and I want to do something about that, right? And what makes business, I think, sometimes challenging is because you can want to sell something all day long, and it will always be hard if it's not something people want to buy,
Right.
right? Now, at this stage, we don't know. We don't know if they want it or don't want it. We have what's called a hypothesis, right? We have a hypothesis of like, well, I believe that there's a lot of women out there that probably have the same experience. I also believe that having a hybrid course coaching solution is going to be the best solution to them achieving their goals. And therefore, we're going to align. We're going to align and they're going to say yes to my offer. And then tra la la, we're done.
Yes.
Okay.
Happy day.
So, one thing I do notice about your current hypothesis of how am I going to get in front of people? The first how is the ad, right? So there's a clarity that it's like, I'm going to do paid advertising. We don't know how much it's going to cost. We know that that's an option. The next assumption in the hypothesis is that if I sell something very low ticket, the $7 thing, that the resistance to that is going to be pretty low because the price is low. And therefore, I'm going to have a more target rich list, right? And then we're also assuming that they're going to open your email and they're going to see the offer after the $7 offer, and they're going to want to upgrade to the $9.97 because they watched your VSL. Is that accurate? Okay. So this is what I call kind of a Jenga tower of hypothesis. So you know the game Jenga with
Oh,
the
yeah.
blocks, right? And what happens when you start layering blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks on top of that tower? What eventually happens?
It becomes unstable.
Exactly. Now, if we said that some of those blocks are concrete and some of those blocks are light as a feather, do you think the order of which blocks you would put in that Jenga tower would matter?
Sure.
Okay. So what happens is when we have like a lot of different blocks and we don't know which ones are feather light, we don't know which ones are concrete, and then we like stack them all together, we could wind up with a pretty teetery tower and it could end up crashing.
Kind of like the place in New York, that building that's,
Right. Yeah. We've all seen those demolition kinds of videos. And it's just like, if the foundation's not there,
yes.
then we build on top of that. Then the whole building is compromised, right? It's the same thing with setting up your business system, right? So what I love about your strategy is that you have a system in mind. You've taken care of like the visibility, you've got the payoff at the end of the 997 offer. What I think would help is if we were to make the discernment about what's foundational, right? What's foundational, and can we prove parts of our hypothesis is true and keep the other stuff out of it for a sec,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is that if the tower topples over, that's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
If the tower topples over and we've just put a lot of different bricks in there, it's hard to tell which ones
We,
were not good
right.
assumptions. But if we have just a little tiny tower and we test that little tiny tower with very few bricks, what
Right.
happens?
Well, that's why I'm here, because you know how to do this.
So good. Well, I'd love to in this episode walk you through how do I test a new offer, because I actually did this. So recently I launched our Clairvenue Inner Circle, as you are very well aware, and it was a new offer. It was a new positioning. Historically, I was positioning with a different company under like campaigning specifically to coaches. And with Clairvenue, I was wanting to expand my base a little bit and be able to help anybody who sells through concept, right? Like that was a little bit of a broader definition. And I had a hypothesis, meaning I had an idea of what I thought people would want, what I thought people had a problem with, and what their preferences probably were for that. Now, I do have the benefit of having done several online offers over the last decade. So I've tested a lot of bricks, if that makes sense, right? So, but that being said, here's what I did not do. I did not turn on Facebook ads and have a multi-step funnel with multiple buying decisions in it as my first move. So, and most people do that, by the way. Most people, they build like this big funnel that's got all the different steps, and then they, I think there's a base belief there that I've got to take a big leap. I've got to be willing to take a big risk or I'm not going to get a big payoff. And I think that's like a little bit true. You've got to be willing to keep testing. I think the bigger risk that people are kind of avoiding is iterating. It's the proving out the little blocks and then going a little higher with new blocks and proving those out and finding out you failed and then restacking and trying different blocks and then getting that taller tower because you are making sure it's really firm at every level, right? So instead of building the whole funnel, what I did And what I generally recommend is something I call the lazy funnel.
Good. Lazy's right up my alley.
Yeah, good, good. I think it's up everybody's alley, to be honest. So here's how it works is the first thing I do is I identify who. And you've done a brilliant job of who. Like in terms of it's a woman, it's someone who takes care of other people, it's someone who works hard. I think there's maybe some more opportunity to even get a little more specific. Like what does she do for a living?
Probably one of two things. She's either, well, one of three things. Either like upper administrative assistant, could be a boss, or a very busy mother.
Okay, okay. So those are very different people, right? And even if it was like the same
Schizophrenic.
general person, it think of it kind of like as a person, we play roles.
Right.
And depending on what role we're playing, we're going to identify with the features of that role. So if you had to pick one of those three to test first, and I'm not saying you can't test all of them, but just you can only test one at a time. And you were a betting lady. I'm not saying you're making a bet, but if you were making a bet, which one do you think would be the most excited about this opportunity?
The one I can most relate to would be a business owner. I'm not sure that that's
Female
the right
business
answer, but
owners.
yeah.
Female business owners. Okay, cool. Let's go another click down. There are side hustle ladies. There are professionals, such as yourself, like lawyers and accountants and, kind of solopreneurs. There are women that are running medium-sized businesses. There are women running very large businesses. And I'm curious, like, what category would you say resonates the best here?
I would go solopreneur or small business, because that's the person who doesn't have anybody to doesn't have a lot of people to delegate to, doesn't have the structure that a big business owner would have.
Amazing. And you've got the lived experience, so you can draw on a lot of credibility, right? I like that. Okay, so good. Okay, so we're going to be focused on female solopreneur professionals who are feeling overwhelmed and burnt out and are realizing, oh my gosh, my calendar is getting filled by everybody else and my wallet is being drained by everybody else. And I want to get in the driver's seat.
Yes.
Okay, how's that feeling for clarity about exactly who you're talking about? That's the magic, because when we get really clear about exactly who she is, now here comes the next question. Where does she hang out?
I would think that she still hangs out on socials, because she's going to doom scroll, and
She's a
that's a
doom
waste of
scroller.
time.
Okay, that's good. Yep, that's really good. Where else does she hang out?
I have no idea.
Where do you hang out? Do you go to Chamber of Commerce events? Do you go to networking events? Have you joined any associations?
I don't network a whole lot. I still do my aerial hoop lessons and horse stuff. So I try to make sure that I see people doing that.
Okay, cool. So you've got your hobbies. She probably has her hobbies too. So a really good signal that you've picked a good niche is that there's some kind of organization or organizations that you can point to that she might be a member of.
Yeah,
She or
if around here there's a couple women business groups in the cities nearby.
Fabulous. Okay, that's great, right? So what you could have also just said there, by the way, is you could have said, nah, there's no association. Like this person I picked is such a freaking unicorn, she's really hard to find. She's super unique. Everybody's
Try
after
not
her,
to
but
do that.
we all do. I think there's like an odd safety we sort of feel in, like if I pick somebody who's so weird and hard to find, I think it makes us feel better when we can't find her.
Yeah, it's was it one of those self-fulfilling prophecies?
It ends up being self-fulfilling. Exactly. So I actually call that a unicorn avatar. I've done the same thing where I'm like, oh, it's just because I know her so well. And so then I would, I would justify it. But then of course it was really hard to find her. So we want to find like this sweet spot of like, they're abundant. Like there's lots of people like that. And it's pretty easy to track them down,
Yeah.
but it's not everybody. It's not everybody. Okay. So you got the avatar. We've got the offer. This avatar, this person, has she ever taken online courses before? Is that her scene?
It wouldn't surprise me if she has. I'm sure. I don't know that she would do a long-term course, but I'm sure she's done. I'm
So
going to
like
show
this
my age
6 week
here.
commitment feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Has she ever hired a coach or does she know any
I
coaches?
think that she's hired coaches or that she's read like articles in magazines or short books.
Okay. Okay. So she's got like this investment in awareness. That's fantastic because when I'm thinking about an avatar, I'm like, I kind of want to sell to somebody who's probably going to buy stuff like this.
Well, see, that's the two words I learned were problem aware and solution aware.
Yes. You've been
Problem
doing your
aware.
homework.
Hey, I've been trying really hard.
I love
But
it.
I didn't want to do problem aware because I don't want to have to teach why they need this. I want to do solution aware where they know that they're stuck and work from there.
I love that. So maybe they've been hesitant. This is really, really good, Lynn, because now getting into her head, if she's solution aware, like I probably should be hiring a coach, I probably should be talking to somebody, like that's good. There's also going to be a hesitancy. There's a reason she hasn't pulled the trigger yet. And so what do you think are some of those big main reasons that she hasn't done it yet?
One, she doesn't have enough time. She's already overwhelmed, so she doesn't have enough time to do anything else.
Okay.
I think two is that she doesn't think it'll work. She wants it to work, but doesn't think it'll work because all the things out there look at adding one more layer to her work. Nothing tells her to stand back and say, this is why it's happening and making her aware so that she has the actual choice to do it or not do it.
Okay. I'd say that if that's true, you're still talking to a problem aware person, not a solution aware person. Because a solution aware person is probably looking actively for a coach. She just hasn't picked one yet. So
Yes,
it's more like she's not pushing back on doing it. So somebody who's problem aware may not even be aware that there is a solution. Somebody who's
right.
solution aware, she knows she has options and maybe she hasn't pulled the trigger. I'm going to give you a hint. Maybe it's a preference thing.
Preference
Maybe
on
there's
what?
maybe she's got a preference about how she learns, or maybe she's got a preference of learning from somebody who's faith-based, or maybe she's got a preference about the flexibility of the schedule, or maybe she's got a preference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, in fact, we were talking earlier today, like before we did the recording, and you were like, "Hey, do you have this thing in PDF of a step by step?" And I was like, "Tell me more, Lynn," because what I'm listening for is I'm like, as my customer, I'm like, I want to know that you want to have it be something that I'm imagining something you want to print out, right?
Yes, I want something where it gives me paper, and I'm old, I admit it. I want paper or
We're all
something
old.
so I can look at it and say, "Okay, here's the step I missed," because 'cause I'm also ADHD, so I'm gonna go step 1, 2,
Gosh,
4,
yes,
5,
I
so
love paper. Okay. This is so good. But you see how that's a preference, right? And so when I deliver on the preference of paper, then you as a customer go, yay, like
yeah, this is my people.
my needs are being fulfilled because I've got this checklist and I can print it out and I feel good. And that's what you want, right? When somebody's looking for or shopping between solutions, it really is starting to come down to like what are their preferences? Another way of thinking of it is what are her buying criteria? So what does she need to see from you, Lynn, that makes her go, okay, and basically throw a credit card at your face is because you've done such a good job of really understanding her buying criteria. So coming back to the lazy funnel, the lazy funnel is basically spending this time like we just did. And I'll make sure you have a copy of this recording in addition to the show. Like I'll give you the raw recording.
Okay.
When you're really clear about your hypothesis, still a hypothesis on who. So it's a hypothesis because we have good reason to believe that it's true that this woman is like this and that she exists and all the things that we talked about so far. Rewind if you don't remember, right? But all those things, it's still a hypothesis. And so in order to move it from hypothesis to a proven, right, or at least a not disproven hypothesis, is we have to what? We need an experiment.
We try it.
Yeah, we need an experiment. So when I look at like the long funnel of like the ad, actually the ad is an experiment. And then that offer of the $7 thing is an experiment.
Yes.
And the email to get them back to the VSL is an experiment. The VSL itself is an experiment. And
Yes.
then at the end, you have the experiment of, does she even want this offer?
Right.
I
Which
lost track, but how many experiments have to go right before we find out if this offer works?
too many.
So many, right?
Yeah.
So the lazy funnel basically deletes all the rest of that. And what we do is we start at the end. So we start at
Okay,
the
throw your
end.
credit card at me. That's the end.
Yeah, exactly. So then, and this is like the real magic. Who do I know who might just be ready to have that conversation? And I literally, the technology piece of this, Lynn, good news, it's paper. I know how much you love it. It's paper. And it's writing down the first name. Now, when I'm doing the lazy funnel, I usually don't ask, do you want to buy my stuff? Right? Because we've talked about pitch placement and pitch slapping, and we don't like pitch slapping people, right? However, here's what you can say, and nobody's going to get mad. Or if they're going to get mad, they were probably going to be mad anyway. But just generally, if you make your list of Jane and Sarah and Barbara and Joan, and you write down the actual names of people, and you go through the list, you call them up, and you say, hey, I am starting a new program for women, and it's designed for solopreneur professionals who want to have more bandwidth. Like they want to be able to enjoy their business. They want to be able to enjoy life. It's like a 6-week program, and I'm really excited about it. I got the curriculum done and everything. Who do you know, Joan, that might be really interested in being in my pilot program?
I like that.
Right. And Joan likes that because it's like, oh, my friend Lynn just hit me up and is asked. By the way, I made up the name Joan. So Joan, if you're watching this, purely coincidental. But your friend Joan ends up going like, dang, that's kind of cool. My friend's asking me for support in a way that
Yeah.
doesn't risk our relationship. It doesn't risk our friendship. Because that's the reason it's so hard to sell to friends, is because a friend won't buy from you because they love you. Like they don't want to risk the friendship you have over a
Yeah.
business transaction. So that's the
Yeah.
reason it's so hard to sell to friends. But friends can still support your business. You just have to tell them how. And making an introduction is a great way to do it. And you know what,
Yeah.
Joan's going to say one of 3 things. She's going to say, yep, sounds good. Let me introduce you to my friend Jane. Or she's going to say, no, gee, Lynn, I'm sorry. You're the only solopreneur professional female that I know on the entire planet Earth. Right? So, I mean, she could say that. Or the third thing is she could say, could you tell me more about that? Because it turns out that you're speaking Joan's language, and Joan would love more. And when she invites you into more of a conversation, it literally, like, that's the permission gate to say, well, would you like to be in this?
Yeah.
And here's the beta price and everything like that. And what do you think? And then she can decide yes or no.
I
What do you
like
think
that.
about that as a lazy strategy?
I like it because I am reluctant to go up to my friends and say, hey, you want to buy into this program? But if you ask, who do you know, it takes all the pressure off of them.
Exactly. And then here's where we go from lazy. I call it lazy because it's not. I mean, you obviously still have to do the work and have the conversations. And if I don't have fancy bells and whistles, clever copywriting, slick tech, and you just said yes to the core offer, now I've got a foundation. So when I launched Claire Venue, I got a foundation of 30 members. Right. And so I didn't do it through a funnel. I didn't do it through a live webinar. I did it by picking up the phone and talking to people. Right. There's phases to this, because guess what we do after that? We're going to put one more brick just in front of the ask. Right. So we're going to go from, okay, let's say you get 4 sales or 5 sales at the target price. What does that do to your confidence about the offer being right?
It would make it much nicer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So then we can start to automate, okay, how can I get people to want to book a call with me without me having to ask? And that becomes the next puzzle we solve. Once you have that, the messaging right to get the call booked, then we do the video sales letter that takes more of that conversation. And at every step and stage, there's going to be failure.
Yeah. No, it's feedback.
But it's feedback. And because you have the success of the lazy funnel on your side, you know it's not the offer. The offer is fine. It's this particular part of the message isn't working. So instead of working on the whole funnel and spreading ourselves across this entire huge system, we're working on decoding one piece at a time.
It's all really good except for the part where you go, but I want it all.
Let's talk about that. Yeah, let's talk about that. I agree with you. This is the hard part. So what comes up for you?
Well, one is just I know down the road where I want it to be. And I know as of right now, I've got a tech expert on the line that I will not know the tech when I decide, okay, yeah, I'm ready for the next 3 levels of the funnel, which hopefully we're learning something. Like I'll have my little paper in front of me.
Well, okay. So there's a couple of things here, right? So number one, I'm not going anywhere. Like if you're in the inner circle, then you've got this opportunity to keep asking, right? I think that the second piece is just accepting that yes, success is not really this like linear, straight line, easy shot, one big risky move. It's actually more like a spiral staircase where we're taking steady steps, and sometimes it actually feels like you're starting over because
Yeah.
there's this swirling effect to it. But if you really are progressing, then we're implementing one step at a time. Third big thing is the technology is not the business.
It
So
seems
I hear,
overwhelming though.
say again?
It seems overwhelming though, the technology.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's talk about that because, and I've heard you say something like this before. Like, are you open
Yeah.
to slaying this particular dragon today?
I'm up for it. I just part of it is I know it changes. So then it's like, okay, I didn't get it the first time and now it's already changed on me.
Yes, that is the nature of the beast. So the first thing to know is the business, the real business is actually what we talked about earlier. It's you serving other people's goals. You can do that with conversations. I know you're very good at that. You can do that through paper. You can do that through video. You could do that through AI bots. You could do that through all kinds of mechanisms. So the thing to remember is technology always is an enhancement of your business. It's not the answer.
It's not the answer, but it's how people know about your business. Like for instance, with this systems and everything, I send out my emails and stuff like that through the system. So I love technology and hate it at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. So again, that's an enhancement though, right?
Yes.
So when you think about the list that you've built and the emailing that you do to that list, it's the message that is the business part because it's the
Yes.
conversation you're having with the customer. The technology is enabling that continued conversation, right? So I think something that could really help is considering, okay, as I'm building my business, as I'm building these different layers of the business, and I'm going up my spiral staircase layer by layer, the first layer, based on the strategy we just discussed of reaching out to people, is actually opportunity management.
Okay.
This is your Clairvenue OS system. Right here on the left, there's this feature called opportunities. So I know you already have contacts in your list because you've been building your list over the last few years, right? Okay. Now, not every contact on your list, to your point, is going to be the ideal avatar for this new opportunity. Is that right? Okay. However, they could be connected to somebody and they might be actually a good fit. Is that fair too?
Yeah, basically I don't know is the answer that I would have to give on most of them.
That's great. I love it when we don't know. Okay. Because actually knowing, usually when an entrepreneur thinks they know, they don't know because they didn't test. They didn't test it. They didn't
Yeah, you have
verify.
expectations and they're usually wrong.
That's exactly it. So not knowing is actually a fine place to be. So what you do have though is you do have leads, right? So each of those contacts is a potential lead, and they're either a lead for directly for the product. So if they're directly a lead for the product, that makes them a prospect. If there's a potential that they could buy soon, like let's say within the next 90 days, right? Or they're a lead to a referral source. But they're all potential relationships. Make sense? So the opportunities feature, what's so super cool about it is you can use the sales pipeline feature to identify the people who are ready to have a conversation or have popped their hand and raised their hand as like, hey, I am or I'm connected to a female solopreneur professional, and I'm interested in addressing my overwhelm this year. Amazing. That's all we need to know. You're now a prospect. So this feature, you can also use it for the referrals. So remember when we were talking to Joan and Barbara and Jane, right? Every time there's somebody new that you could talk to, we add an opportunity and we start with the contact's name. So I'm going to put my name in here. Oh, look at that. I'm already a lead in your system.
I was going to say, I think you're here.
Yeah. But let's say I'm not in the system. We can actually create a new contact and we can add the contact's information like their email and their phone number and all of that. What I like to do is on the opportunity name, I might say referral source. If I know that this is somebody who I'm hoping to hit up for a referral. And if it's a new lead, it just means I've identified that I'm going to reach out to this person. So, when we did the paper piece with Joan and Jane, the next step I would do is I would go into my system and I would start creating these opportunities, because then the goal is to progress these opportunities along the pipeline journey. So they go from being just a new lead to becoming, I'm just going to clear that, to maybe becoming a hot lead, or maybe I got booked with this person. And so you think of it like the stages of the pipeline are the progression of the relationship. And if we were to gamify relationshiping, then the aim of the game is to progress people along
Right.
that journey, right? And the ultimate objective of the journey is to move them from an open status, which means like conversation is open and active, to hearing no. So that's lost. Yes, that's one. Or maybe you're a no. Like
Okay.
LYNN has evaluated this and it's like, it's just not a good personality fit, or I thought this person would be a good source. They seem really grumpy, or there's a boundary that I'm not comfortable with here. You can abandon that. But I like tracking abandoned separate from lost, because I think of lost as like I pitched or I made an invitation and they said no. And then I'm going to track the reason they said no. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Super. So this is actually your first technical system, not a landing page, not a VSL, but very useful, because then what happens is, let's say you are sitting down in your office and you're going to do your outreach and you're going through your list of opportunities and you reach out to each one of them, then you're done. You're done for the day. You did that list.
Yeah.
And then as they respond, you update the opportunity. And so then your time blocks are identifying people that are already in my network, because I'm doing my lazy funnel first,
Yeah.
and then progressing people through those steps,
That
aiming
makes
to
sense.
organically sell my offer 5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's not as overwhelming.
exactly. You've already set up your email and everything that you can have the conversations. Like, what's really cool is when you click on the name of the person, it takes you straight to the deal, takes you straight to the opportunity. So I'm just going to pop my email here. So now that I got my email on here, you can actually send an email and track the entire interaction through the system. And that's really useful because one of the reasons that we don't just automatically sell like crazy is because we maybe are going to get a bunch of energy and do the outreach. And we're just going to be like, hey, Lynn, hey,
Yeah.
Joan, hey, Barbara, right? But then they may not reply immediately. Sometimes they do, but very often they don't. So building a rhythm that you can pick up and put down these things without having to keep it in your head
Yeah.
helps you stay focused and stay in alignment. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So let's talk about the next phase of the technology piece. Go. When you say you're bad at technology, what does that actually mean?
I like to know how everything works. And if I don't know how to get from point A to point B, like all the steps, it just drives me nuts.
Okay. All right. And how does it make you feel when you're driven nuts?
Normally, what happens is I start researching it, trying to figure out why I can't do this. And whatever it was I missed the first time because I'm already nuts, I miss it the second time too.
Yeah. So it sounds like it gets like very flustery and
Yes.
very, frustrated. Yeah. So here's my hot tip is I have a practice like when you get into this tizzy, this frustration, how long do you stay in it?
It depends on if tell myself I must do this today, or if I can say, nope, just walk away, put it down, walk away. And then that usually takes like a half hour to an hour. And then I can walk away and come back and look at it and say, oh, well, I should have done this. And
Got it. So calm helps.
yes,
Okay. That's a really good learning. So something that helped me a huge amount when it came to technology adoption, and especially like when AI hit the scene and I was like, oh, my word, there's so many options for where I could spend time and
yes,
energy. And it's like, I was actually just last night tinkering with something and I was like, "Oh, maybe I could do this on Sora." And well, Sora doesn't even exist anymore. Like they released it and then it disappeared in like 3 months and I was like, "Oh." So in the 3 months that I wasn't using the app, it like not only did I not build proficiency in the thing, it actually disappeared.
nice.
So, which led me down a whole nother rabbit hole. So here's the rule that helps me when it comes to new anything. It could be new technology, new system, new script, new process, new habit, like just new anything new. 15-minute rule. I have a 15-minute rule. So I will struggle for 15 minutes. That's it. That's all I give myself.
Okay.
I used to fight for hours and then I realized I was pissed off. I would miss stuff, right? Very similar experience. So I adopted this 15-minute rule. And at 15 minutes, I must ask for help.
Okay. Now here's my question, because I do post on the inner circle, which you've seen my numerous posts, but like, I love Claire Venue. I like the system. I like that everything's all there in one place. But I do know that I could go to chat or Claude and say, hey, this isn't working in Canva. What do I do? And I can't do that on Claire Venue because they're not familiar with the system yet.
I
So
see.
what do you do when you get frustrated?
Yeah. So number one, our backend system is high level. So you can use the words high level and your AI will know what it is. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I have
But
found
you're
AI.
but then it'll have like access to all of the high level documentation.
Okay.
What makes Clearvenue unique and different is that I have my snapshots in it and I can provide you with the specific support. So, as you have experience in the inner circle, when you say like, help, I did a thing or I started a thing, then what I can do is I can actually see your account and I can personally do a loom, which is a short recording, and I can actually like get in there and help. But it's totally valid and okay to have other sources for that. I think the other piece, the other rule that really helps me is KYG. You might write that one down too. Know your goal. So, for example, if you're running into a technical issue, let's say you're trying to set up mass email, like you're trying to set up your email marketing. To know your goal is the goal is not to get email to work. The goal is to send my weekly newsletter,
Yeah.
right? Or the goal is to improve my open rate from 15% to 20%. It's a clear outcome that I want to accomplish. The reason that's so important is because sometimes our strategy is the whole problem. Like the process we're trying to follow or the part of the system we're trying to use, like because we're trying to force something to work, but maybe we pick the wrong something because we don't know what the
Yeah, because
correct
we haven't
something is.
experimented in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with experimenting, but my grand point being, when you know your goal, then when you ask for help, you can say up front, my objective is
Yeah.
to have this outcome. Like, this is what I want at the end of the day. So then when you ask for help, whether you're asking for AI or you're posting it in the inner circle and you're getting coaching on it or you're live, like whatever the case may be, it allows the person who does or entity, I mean, let's be real, it could be AI. It allows them to go, if that's your outcome, here's a faster, better, easier,
Yeah.
more specific way to do it without you having to know that answer.
Yeah. That
And that
actually
makes the help more
clarifies.
helpful.
Yeah, that clarifies it a lot because you have been amazing on doing looms for me and doing all these things because I naturally have a lot of questions. I admit it, but to really focus on what the objective is, that's just a different way for me to look at things, and that helps.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just did a private coaching call earlier today where we were talking about sometimes and this actually dovetails with your coaching a little bit. Sometimes when we're
Send them
trying to
over.
like do all the little tasks at the bottom, we get overwhelmed, right? And so by knowing your goal at the top, it can help us to eliminate other possibilities and it actually ends up being less work in the end.
Yeah,
I love that.
love it.
Well, Lynn, thank you so much for joining me for this segment. Is there anything else that you want to make sure we share with the people before we stop recording?
No, this has been wonderful. I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you so much. Do the lazy thing, right?
Yeah,
Get that opportunity out there and get some proof of that concept. And then we can build from there
okay.
and we can keep working on it in the inner circle.
I
All
really
right.
appreciate it.
I
Thanks.
appreciate you. We'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.